Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. So I'm going to tell you, I love every week the different women that I have on here sharing their stories, but I'm going to say I've been very excited about this conversation. I'm not going to lie. This one I've been super excited about because anyone who's heard me speak before knows my little love affair with France. I just can't help myself. I get giddy like a child. And I've had lovely experience visiting, and I just love, I've made a good friend there. So for this week, I am delighted to say that my guest is the conductor or the music director here in Northeastern Pennsylvania of the Northeast Pennsylvania Philharmonic, Melisse Brunet. And as you know, every week at my podcast, I talk about how I know my guest. So I do not know Melisse, but I am familiar, of course, with the Philharmonic. I have attended a few concerts through the years. My good friend Trisha is on the board of directors for the Philharmonic, and we did attend I don't know if it would be called a chamber session. It was a smaller concert of three musicians at a church in Scranton back in, I think, April it was. And it was wonderful, of course, high quality music. And so I am so excited to be able to speak with Melisse Brunet this morning. Welcome, and thank you so much for sharing your time with me.
Bonjour, Janine, and thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
I was going to attempt to speak French to you, but I would say je parle français, mais je ne parle pas bien.
C'est très bien. Parfait, parfait, super.
When I did visit with my friend and she was here, we both had our dictionaries, our French American dictionaries. So we'd go, so I wish I was more fluent so I could speak with you in your language. But I should say, I want to start off by saying you actually became an American citizen, I believe, recently. Is that right?
Absolutely. It was a big day on February 5th, 2024. So it's a very recent. I was very, very honored after 14 years in the country to become a citizen. It's something that I had wanted for a long time. And, I went through all the process and I'm so excited.
And of course, I want to talk to you about music and everything, but can I ask you first, some people, I don't know if you've been all over the country, but I don't know if you know, here in Scranton in northeastern Pennsylvania, we have a little bit of a self-confidence or self-esteem problem. There's a lot of people who live here who might say, why would you come here? Or why do you like it here? Or even Americans. So you're a native of Paris. Can I just ask, what drew you to coming to America to do your craft and to become a citizen? Basically what motivated you to do that?
Yes. So I landed on January 10th, 8th, 2010 in Cleveland, Ohio. So that gives you an idea of the climate, temperature, and thing. And coming from Paris, we don't really have snow there. We don't really have the four seasons as strongly defined as it is in Cleveland. And I immediately fell in love with the country because of the landscapes, because it looked like movies, the homes, the lights, and also people who were very, very nice. So I didn't have money. I was taking the buses and things, and all bus drivers would say, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" And I was like, is that bus driver talking to me? It's something you won't see in Paris. Like, people don't talk to you. They're making faces. They are pretty aggressive and things. There's a lot of frustration. And here, so people, despite having 2, 3, 4 jobs to make a living and having very difficult lives, they still keep it together and are nice and smiling and welcoming. And that allowed me to discover who I really in my heart, and to accept kindness as a strength, which in France is more seen as a weakness. And so that's why I was always very unbalanced when I was in France, which I didn't know until I came here, because I discovered that actually kindness is a fantastic strength. It makes you feel a lot better. It makes everybody feel a lot better. And that doesn't mean that you let people walk on you, that's not that. You still have boundaries and things, but it builds stronger society. It's built a stronger personal happiness and things. So that was a huge discovery But before coming to the US, so when I came, it was just for 4 months as an exchange student with my School of Music in Paris. And I only had cliche about the United States. Everything you see on media is basically cliche, right? So it was a lot of serial killers. I would be very unsafe. People were driving so fast. You know, everything you see in the movies, basically, or in the media, that would be it. And I really was not attracted to the US. And I just came to the US because my favorite orchestra was there. It's the Cleveland Orchestra. And I could do an exchange program with the Cleveland Institute of Music. So it was a great opportunity to go observe them and things. So I came with a lot of bias towards the country. And I was, yeah, I'm there for a month and I'm going back home. You know, that's what's going to happen. But from day one, I was, wow, that's cool. And then I never wanted to come back, you know.
Wow. And it's so interesting. I think sometimes when we're in a place, we don't see it the same way as someone coming to your point about France. I remember it was always my dream to visit. I visited back after 9/11 here in America because people are afraid to fly. So the prices went down. And that's when I went in 2002. And I was on a train to visit Auvers-sur-Oise to see the gravesite of Van Gogh. Didn't do my research, didn't know my train stop, and looked around and thought, oh, who am I going to ask? This little petite woman who is the age of my mother, and she drove me there, and she's been lovely, and we've had this friendship. But even she has said, I forget her exact words, but like the French are unfriendly, I think was her what she said. But she and her husband to me are just incredible people. She plays an instrument, they both paint. Her husband taught art. So they were just beautiful people that I believe I was fortunate to meet. But that is something she's even said, and thankfully my experience was beautiful. But it's funny, a lot of Americans would probably not feel the way that you're saying. Like right now, with the division in our country, we don't feel kind necessarily. But I love that that was your experience and that it apparently made you feel so strongly that you wanted to become a citizen. And I think that's just a beautiful testament and something that I think we need to be reminded of here. That this has been your experience. So you must be obviously you must now love living here, I'm guessing.
Oh, I love it here. For me, I could not go back live in France, you know. And for people who have never changed country to live in different country, this is a very difficult step, you know. The day before I had to fly to come to the US, I didn't know anyone there. I had found a roommate on Craigslist. I didn't know even it's a thing you should not be doing too much, but you know, I was going to the unknown, total unknown. I barely spoke the language, could mostly not understand what was happening. And I got very sick before going, to the point that a doctor had to come to my place and give me shots because I was so much stressed out. And having to leave the country where you grew up, where you know everything, everyone, the culture, the language, and go to another place and restart from scratch. Because even though I had done very high level studies in France, they are not known really in the States, and people don't really recognize or know what we are doing there. So I had to rebuild everything, you know, my friendships, my connections, also make sure that, you know, prove myself again. So rebuild everything. And that's not for that requires some skills that it's never a light thing to do, to change the country. And that's very interesting because a lot of American people, they tell me, hold on, you went from Paris and you lived in Cleveland and you fell in love with the country in January. And I say, yeah, you know, people don't want to see how wonderful the USA are, but they are wonderful. And as you mentioned, there is a lot of divide now, but, you know, a country is going through history. We are making history on a daily basis. And it's like a relationship. When you're in a relationship with someone, there are sometimes years where it's not going well, and you still gonna make it work, and you're gonna keep it together in the hardships. And those hardships are gonna actually at the end help you all to be stronger. So I think it's important to never give up on the things that are meaningful for you and put some work. So now it's a time of work for the country, which was not when I landed. And I'm very proud that I can be part of the work of bringing kindness, bringing music, bringing people together through sharing music with them.
Yeah, and I think that is so valuable. I just had a podcast conversation with someone who's a painter, and we talked about whether it's painting, and I do comedy, and I do therapeutic laughter yoga. And so, whatever the form is, we have this beautiful opportunity to connect and engage with people and affect their lives, I think, in a positive way. Um, before we get into your role at the Philharmonic and the film that you were in, could you just describe, if you don't mind, I know this is probably going to be, you could answer it over 2 hours, but what is your relationship? How would you describe your relationship with music?
It, it's my life. I cannot live without music. It's part of everything. It's my passion, my personal passion. It's my also how do you say that that's something that you need to share with everybody. That's my call as well, and it's been my call since I was a teenager. It's also a place where I heal and keep healing and keep expressing myself in a safe way. That's a thing that saved me. Music is everything to me, and I'm very lucky that I can make it my job.
Yeah. And I just read a little bit on your bio. So you had, when you were young, you started playing, is it cello, the French horn, the piano? Those are instruments that I believe you started with. Is that right?
Yeah, I started with a cello, even though I wanted to do drum set. But my parents, they were, no, it's not for girls and it's too loud. So I went to cello, and then later on, I was attracted to all the instruments of the orchestra, but my parents wanted for me to stick to one only. So I did hide from them to play the trumpet. And then later, when I was a young adult, I did also some French horn, piano, and singing.
And that's, oh my gosh. So you're obviously multi-talented. In my mind, I mean, that's incredible. What drew
Oh.
you to, no.
It's just play here and there and having fun, Is I just could not resist the temptation of taking an instrument and making sounds with it. It feels amazing to me, but I'm not a genius or someone. You don't want to hear me at a concert playing the French horn or anything.
Obviously your music is your life. It's your passion. What drew you to the idea of becoming a conductor or a music director? And I will say, so you were featured in, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. You were featured in a documentary about women conductors competing in Paris in La Maestra. And I just, it's one of those roles that, like a lot of roles or positions in life, not many women throughout history have filled, and it's often been thought of as men who've been in this role. So when did you decide in your mind that that was what you wanted to become? And what were your thoughts on that, knowing that it would be different and you have this opportunity to change what it looks like for the world?
Um, it came very suddenly one day that I recall very well. When I was a teenager, I'm not sure of my age. I must have been 14, between 13 and 15. But I remember that suddenly I had that call. And the way it happened was very interesting because my parents are not musicians. So I did not grow up in that music-oriented family. But we were at that school of music, because in France you have school of music in every town, and studying music is basically free for anyone. So you have a lot of kids, adults, and going to the school of music and learning. So my sister and I were there and playing in a small orchestra. She was violin, I played the cello, and we were playing that symphony by Mozart, whom I didn't know. And I felt bored to death. I was, oh my God, it is so boring. And suddenly I realized, I saw the name and I was, that Mozart dude here he did not wake up one morning and decide, my goal in life, my call in life is to write boring music. Right? Who does that? I mean, give me the example of one person who decide one morning to say, I'm going to bore people to death. It's my goal in life. So then I realized Mozart didn't want to bore me. And I saw my friends around, they had also long faces and things. So I'd say, yeah, everybody here is bored. So we have a problem here, that because that guy wanted for us to feel passion, to feel a lot of emotions and things. So how do I find that in his music? So I've got two options. Either I learn my part very well as a cellist and I understand what it is about and I'm very excited about it. But then I run the risk that if my friends don't do the same, I'm still going to be frustrated because it would be just me on a certain level of thing. And then I see the conductor and I'm like, that man here is unable to share anything with us and find the joy and the passion of this music. So I could become the conductor because then I've got all the parts in front of me and I can study it so well that I'm going to find what Mozart wanted to share with all of his people during his time. And then I can share it with the musicians, and then we can share it with the audience and find everything that's so exciting about it, you know? And from that day, it was just my call. And I was very naive, and I'm still naive, and that's probably also what makes artists to keep a form of naivety, you know? It really helps you also to survive life at times. I was very naive to not know or see that there were no women. I never realized. I was just, because I grew up also, my education was, if you work hard, you're going to get whatever you want. So it was ingrained into me. So yeah, of course, I'm just going to work hard and I'm going to become a conductor. I had no numbers. I didn't know. And by then it must have been 0.5% of conductors were women. I mean, nowadays it's 3%, you know? So I had no clue about any of that. And then I'm going to work hard. And it's been always my motto. But then when I started, you know, expressing my wish of becoming a conductor, that's when I started to meet a lot of, oh, no, you cannot do that. You know, my parents, they were, of course, we want for you to do whatever you want in life, but there are no women conductors, so you should take a field or a job that's going to bring you money because you need to make a living, you know. And then I had teachers, music teachers, who were telling me, no, you cannot do that. You know, there are no women out there. So that from that point on, I expressed my dream, and that's when the hardship started. But I never kept thinking, I'm good, I'm gonna make it, it's gonna work, you know. So I've always had that drive despite all the hardships.
Yeah. So would you say is that's what's needed? Because it's like when before you told people you didn't have the negativity, and then when you were faced with it, it makes it harder. So you just have to keep that drive and belief that you can do it no matter what because you're going to work hard. Is that what got you through?
Absolutely. I think I don't know where it's coming from, but I never took what people wanted me to be as a guideline. So every time someone would tell me, oh no, you cannot take those two classes at once, it's too much, you won't be able to handle it. And I'm like, hold my beer. And I was just doing it, you know? And it's been like, I've had that very good sense in me of what I can achieve. And I'm a hard worker, and I'm somewhat smart, you know, so I don't see any limits for me. If I see there is a problem, I know there is a solution to it. So I'm going to figure out things to get there. And so I always found ways of self-teaching myself, because I would find no teachers, you know, as a woman. And looking at, okay, what do I need to become a conductor? Here are the skills I need. How do I teach myself those skills to get there? And I'm not going to say it's been easy, you know, it's been a lot of crying, a lot of screaming, a lot of feeling so much injustice and loneliness. to a point where most sane people would have just given up. But I kept pushing because I know it's not, that's what I love, and I know I'm good at it, and that I deserve to live the life that I want, and no one is going to stop me from that, because this is my time here on earth, and I should, do what I'm called to do, as long as I don't harm anyone, which I believe I'm not doing it through music.
Yes. And let me ask you, this is going to be a rather, I guess, uninformed or kind of an ignorant question, but a lot of us, when we do see conductors, we're like, okay, you're waving their arms around. It's hard to understand what it is. And I mean, I guess in a way you could compare it maybe to a coach of a sports team. You're trying to get everyone doing their best to produce this, beautiful piece of music that's enjoyable. But to watch you, it's like I don't know what they're doing. And I did see that the documentary you were in, the director spoke a little bit about the physicality of it, how you come off stage dripping wet with sweat. If you don't mind just explaining, what exactly does a conductor do? Like, what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, there are some mysterious jobs, right? And I see you're someone very curious who wants to know the behind the scene, I'm the same. The documentary Maestra actually explains very nicely what we do. Because it's aimed at people who are not spending their lives in that world, So, and everyone who has watched it and is not in music was very thankful for, making it very clear of what we are doing. But what you mentioned is a perfect image as a coach of a sports team. And it would be more a football team here because we are quite a few on stage, but you are giving the energy, you are giving the drive, you are giving the trust, you are giving a goal, you are giving a mission, you are giving also, in the case of music, an interpretation, a reading of, yeah, this is great, let's pull that out. And you are also, like football coach is going to do that also, with times outs and things like that, you managing time. So as a conductor, time is very important because music goes through time, right? So the speed of things and more or less taking time or accelerating or going faster. So there is a part, generally, this is your lead hand. So if you're a righty, your right hand is going to do it. If you're lefty, you have more and more left hand conductors, thank goodness, who do it from the left hand. It's going to show you the time. So that hand shows you the time, which is a lead hand. And generally, the other hand is going to show lines, expression, dynamics, which is it loud or is it soft? But you also have so many more things like the eyes, the body language. Are you someone who is physical and are going to move a lot on the podium, or someone who is very economical? Everything works as long as you find your authentic self and genuine. And you are genuine about music.
Yeah. And I think I should mention, so the documentary that we're referencing is Maestra, and it does follow women of, I think it says 14 and then it comes down to 5. And Melisse is one of the 5 that is featured in this documentary. And it does kind of follow you and this competition and what you go through and what the competition is about. And as Melisse explained or said, it does give us a better definition, I guess, or explanation of view of what it is to be a conductor. And I'd like to ask or mention, you are right now a conductor of 2 orchestras, is that right? Because you're here. Well, I'm in Scranton, so we have the Northeastern Pennsylvania Philharmonic. So you direct that Philharmonic, but you also, if I'm not wrong, you in Kentucky as well, Lexington, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I'm also the music director of the Lexington Philharmonic. So I am living the dream, of what were my goals. And I'm very spoiled and lucky that I can work with those 2 organizations. None of those organizations is a full-time job, as you can imagine. Nowadays, most conductors do not have full-time jobs. So most conductors, you will see them having multiple jobs because just, to make a living. So I work in Kentucky and I work in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, and I'm based in Philadelphia. So I'm a Pennsylvania resident.
Okay, because I saw that, and I guess again my ignorance or my lack of knowledge, I did not realize that. I always thought it was a full-time position. I thought, wow, how is she doing it in two different states? That's wow, that's a lot of work.
Lot of wine.
Okay, that's my kind of job. So talk to me a little bit about the documentary, if you don't mind. And I know I want to be mindful of your time, so we'll just spend a few minutes talking about this. I want to tell folks that it's going to be available on demand August 1st, and then after that it will get on the streaming services. And it was aired here in Scranton, oh gosh, maybe a month and a half or so ago. They did show it down at the Art House Cinema. But I saw interviews with the director, and it looks amazing. It looks like it was a very well done documentary following you women around. And I did see a little snippet of an interview with you where you had talked about the connection and the camaraderie with the other women and everything. But tell me a little bit about that experience of the competition and being featured in this documentary.
It's my experience in the States has been the American dream. This country is been unbelievable. First of all, I've been able in the States to become a conductor and to do my job, but also, for example, to be featured in a movie. It's like, how many times is it to how many people does it happen that you're gonna become the subject of a documentary? When it happened, the competition, we were 14 women selected as finalists to go to Paris out of 200 women who had applied all over the world. And they reached out to us and said, we have that movie team from Los Angeles who wants to do a documentary on the competition. They are not related to us, but they will reach out to you. Then we had interviews, and then they selected 5 women for different reasons and things. But they selected 5 of us, and I was very lucky to be one. And I didn't know what it would be about, I didn't know their art and anything about movie making, but it's been a life-changing experience to be able to observe other artists, and in an art that, like you, I'm very curious. So I'm like, how does that work? And finally, to be able to see the behind the scene of a documentary is fantastic. And also all the experienced Tribeca with the red carpet, David Letterman, and think it was something I'm like, yes, I would love to experience that. I will never experience that. And yet, boom, that happened, and to discover all of those things. But beyond that is also Maggie, the movie director, has that goal of creating documentaries, and she's definitely not doing it for the money, because there is no money in documentary, and she's an artist as well, and see her work and her having she followed us for many, many weeks, and then went to the competition. But then putting all of those hours of rush and create the movie she created from is amazing in terms of managing time and creating things. So it's been beautiful to observe. And also she's made a great, she is also not a musician herself, she's a movie maker, but she made it so beautiful. She respected the 5 subjects. All the 5 subjects are really shining. And she made it very enthralling for audience who are not musicians, or audience who are musicians, audience who are not women, because even though it's about women, it really touches so many subjects that are also not related to women, but it also addresses topics that are very dear to women, like parenthood and child, and a lot of things that many women in their jobs can encounter some difficulties with. So it's very universal. The editing is amazing. And everybody who has watched it told me, I did not know it would be so good in terms of movie making, editing itself.
I watched, as I said, I didn't get to see the documentary, but I saw an interview with her and Maggie, and she said people were surprised because I guess they expected it to be maybe perhaps boring or something that they wouldn't want to watch or relate to. And in the interview, she says that the movie begins in darkness with you screaming, where you're working one-on-one with a university student. And I guess, and I'm paraphrasing, hopefully I get it correctly, about the idea that the body has to be kind of loose without tension to be receptive to move in the way that you need to conduct. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, it's something overall. I'm teaching a woman student during that scene. She was one of my students, and I had found that she was very stiff in her body and she needed to be able to find the freedom to express the music. And why was she stiff? Because as women, we are told, sit down there, behave, do this. You know, we are put in that square box, or, you know, being physical or starting running everywhere or screaming is not what girls do, right? So we've heard that. We have been brainwashed with that for many, many, many years at school, in the families, etc. So when you come to do a job that is going to be tennis player, basketball player, conductor, jobs that are very physical, and if it's even more for conductor, because if you're a basketball player, you have played the game, right, during childhood. But as a conductor, suddenly you need to be in front of people and be able to express in your body what you are feeling inside. And there is that dichotomy of, I cannot do it because I don't have the skills, I don't know how to do it, and I have mental barriers and things. So I found myself, I went to that trip when I was in my 20s. I was so square when I was conducting. It was so boring because I had so many mental issues, you know, and so now I have explored it. And so I was working with her on discover the space around you, jump, scream. So she feels the discomfort. And from that discomfort, she can build a larger base of tools in terms of gestures or expression, you know.
That's wow, that's amazing. I love what you're saying. It kind of reminds me, of course, I think often of myself. I think back to what I do with laughter yoga, which is a physical form. It's not yoga, but it's about the breath and the breathing and making some kind of silly motions. And it does help relieve tension. So I can relate to that process of what you're doing. It sounds like a perfect way, but you're absolutely right in the sense that we are not told to do that. I think of my late grandmother who used to yell at me for how I sat on the couch with my legs open. She'd like sit like a young lady. Like a young lady does not sit like that.
Yeah, right. I want to try your class. I really want to try your yoga class. It
Well,
sounds.
I invite you. We'll definitely, I do it sometimes online, so we'll have to figure something out. I think that would be a fun
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Or when
Yeah.
I'm in town, you know, I come to town often. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, again, I want to be mindful of your time. As we wrap up, I'll just ask you one more question. And I will say that after I get to see La Maestra, I hope, or Maestra, excuse me, I hope that you'll come back on, if you have time and we could talk about the experience after that, after watching that. I would love for you to come back again if that works for you.
Absolutely, I would love that as well. And maybe some your audience members also can watch it since it's going to be available August 1st.
Absolutely. Yes. I will definitely encourage them and I'll put that in the show notes. But as we wrap up, I'll just ask you, I guess, what would you say, what would your advice be in closing for other women in roles like this? What would you tell them if they're just, I mean, I feel like the new generation is much better off than us because I feel like they're given more freedom with less restrictions and roles of what they are. But even women in their 30s and 40s or 50s who want to reinvent themselves, what would you maybe tell them?
Definitely do not let anyone define you, and just go to realize your dreams. You have a dream, do it, because no one can stop you. As long as you decide, I'm going to do that, you will do it. And don't let people, I mean, they can tell you how much they want. Oh yeah, but you're going to lose money. Oh yeah, but then you're going to be a part of your family for that much time. And it's like, this is my dream. This is my call. let's do that. Let's figure it out. And I would also recommend to find mentors, because there are and even if they are not in your field, mentors in your field is great, but find other mentors, other men and women who are, helpful to you and going to be a support to you. That's going to be very helpful to have that, those connections and that support system. But I think it's important to remember that our time here is very short, and do you want to do what excites you the most, or not, and don't be scared, go for it.
Yeah, those are words to live by. I think that's fantastic advice. Thank you so much. And I imagine you're excited for the seasons to begin. I know Northeastern PA Philharmonic, and I don't know, is Lexington on a different schedule, or do they kind of both run at a similar time?
Or they can't run at the same time because I don't have a clone, thank goodness.
Well, yeah, not exactly the same time. Different seasons then. Are they completely different?
We have our season also starting, but our concerts do not conflict. Otherwise, I could not be conducting. But yes, our season with NEPP, Northeastern Pennsylvania Philharmonic, is going to be released very soon. It's our 53rd season, and we have a very exciting season, both in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. Our first concert will be in September, and it's going to be a Queen show in Wilkes-Barre, so it should be pretty fun.
Wow, that's wild. I did see that you like contemporary music. Is that right?
Yeah, I love everything. Music is my life.
Wow. Well, that's very cool. Well, I will definitely put in the show notes a link to the website. So, folks in Northeast PA, be sure to check out the Philharmonic. And, folks, I have listeners all over. So, if you're listening from Kentucky, check out Lexington. And, of course, Melisse does not have a clone. So, of course, she's not in two places at once. So, thank you so much. It has been an absolute delight to speak with you today, Melisse. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. It's so delightful.
No, thank you so much, Janine. Merci infiniment. It was a great pleasure, and congratulations on your show. It's fantastic. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. Merci to you as well. I won't even, it's been a long time since I've spoken French, so I won't even try too hard.
No, that was good. I got
it. Merci bien.
De rien.
Thank you so much again, and thank you to my listeners. I appreciate you so much. As I say each week, if you're interested in helping to support this podcast, I do have Budget Through Life is my current sponsor, but if you're interested in sponsorships and your target audience happens to be women, most of my listeners are actually female, age 35 to about 59. So if that works for your business, consider it. Or if you want to make a one-time donation to support content like this, artists like us need your support. And even if you don't have a monetary donation, remember that if you share this podcast, tell a friend, a foe, or anyone you know to listen. That is also very helpful. That means a lot. So as I say each week, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.